Good evening, friends, participants. Now we are going to have our fifth day of deliberation by none other than J.K. Mittal, sir. First, we are playing ICAI motto song. So I request all the participants to put their right hand on their heart. Friends, by joining this webinar series, there are twin benefits. First, we are going to learn, and second, all the fees collected through this webinar is going to be used for COVID relief. So I congratulate all for joining and participating in this webinar series. As I said yesterday that our chairman CA Fenil Shah is humble person, and his work, selfless work for the society is also going on, and that's why today he is not available here with us, but in his place we are having another dynamic personality for our branch managing committee, and none other than our vice chairman CA Harith Dhariwal. I request now vice chairman to give his opening remarks to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishen Bhai. Respected faculty for the session, Advocate CA J.K. Mittal sir, Vishen Bhai, the secretary, Rahul, the treasurer, as well as IDD committee chairman, and all the dynamic participants. I wish you all a very good evening and welcome you all to the fifth webinar on the GST series. A wonderfully crafted series. I must compliment to Rahul Bhai and Vishen Bhai for crafting this entire series, and I'm sure it's a great value addition to each one of us. Just before we get to the topic, a few announcements. First and foremost, we have a session tomorrow on the audit in CBS environment, will be taken by Mittal Shah at 10:30 in the morning. On 14th, we have two sessions on impact of COVID-19. First is on the impact of COVID-19 on financial statements, which will be taken by our CM Chintan Patel at 10:30 in the morning. And from 1:30, we have a webinar on impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy and stock market by Shri Sandeep, a SEBI registered investment advisor from Mumbai. A very well crafted session by C. Rahul Maliwal. So I think both the sessions are very well designed, and I hope you all will participate in that also. With this, I wish you all a very happy learning. And if any suggestions, any recommendations that you have at branch, kindly get back to us. Thank you.
Request Rahul Maliwal, the chairman of Indirect Tax Committee, to give a brief introduction of J.K. Mittal sir and on the topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, VC sir, Harith Bhai and Vishen Bhai. First, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome you all on the fifth day of the advanced GST series. Now, the topic for the today's session, that is the recent controversies under the GST. And for that, we have the very well-known person, the renowned person in the GST, in the indirect tax eras, Advocate CA J.K. Mittal sir. The sir has given the plethora of the judgments with regard to the controversial aspect in the GST. Yesterday, what the Venkatraman sir has discussed about the landmark judgment by the Gujarat High Court on the unconstitutional levy of the IGST on the ocean freight, and in that was also being the part, J.K. Mittal sir was the was learned on behalf of the petitioner, and the sir has also filed sir has also considered and being the part of so many such type of the judgments. So, and today in the limited time, he will going to share his the wisdom of the words with us. So with this brief introduction, now I'll request J.K. Mittal sir to go forward for the same.
Good evening, friends. Today is Sunday, but for the last 3 weeks, every day is like a Sunday. I hope maje mein cho. Yes, today we are going to discuss many interesting topics. I am not going to repeat what has been discussed yesterday, but there are additional points and other important things we are going to discuss. Let's discuss first about the interest, whether it could be levied on the gross amount or the net amount. Friends, all we know is this discussions is going on, though very recently in 39th GST Council meeting, you can see on 14th March 2020, it has been recommended that interest for the delay in payment of GST to be charged on the net cash liability with effect from 1st July 2017. This amendment, when it will take place, how it will take place, we do not know. But despite this proposal, let's discuss whether this proposal is required or not. What could be the fallout? Friends, my request to all of you would be, since we are all professionals, we should not find a shortcut and should see if this recommendation has come and the matter is over. No, because why this controversy arises, how it could have been sorted out, and how we should analyze it, that is very interesting to see. I would like to take you to the few slides so that you can understand what was the earlier GST Council meeting on 31st GST Council meeting on 22nd December 2018, what was stated. You kindly see this. I'm sure everybody can see the full slide, or should I, because
It's perfect.
Because I myself could not see, some part of this slide in the right hand side, because some portion is covered with him. Anyway, let's read the 31st Council meeting. What was the decision? I quote, law permits furnishing of a return without payment of full tax as self-assessment tax, said return, but the said return would be regarded as invalid return, and however would not be used for the purpose of matching of ITC and settlement. But what is written at the end, you kindly see, this being the case, a registered person cannot even avail his ITC as he cannot furnish his return unless he is in a position to deposit his entire tax liability, self-assessed tax by him. This inflexibility of the system increase the interest burden. What has been said by the council in 2018 itself, it is the problem of the portal. The portal is common portal is not providing you the facilities of furnishing of the return without making the payment of tax. Therefore, it is not the law has been drafted like this. It is the portal is not providing you the facilities. That's why this entire controversy has arisen, whether you are liable to pay the interest on the gross amount or not. To my mind, the law has never said that you are liable to pay the interest on the gross amount. Let's see the section, how it is to be read. Section 50, please see it. Every person who is liable to pay a tax in accordance with the provision of this act or the rule made thereunder, but fails to pay the tax or any part thereof to the government within the prescribed, shall for the period for which the tax or any part thereof remain unpaid, then interest will be payable. Therefore, the word which has been used in this, you can see the Finance Act 75 section, service tax, the same kind of language was used. If you fail to pay the tax either wholly or in part, therefore, if you are liable to pay the tax, let's see 100 rupees, you discharge your liability 25 rupees by cash, 50 rupees by the credit, input tax credit, balance is 25, only 25 as per this section is liable to for the interest. But what the people have understood or the government officer have understood, if you fail to furnish the return, then you are liable to pay the interest, and that interest liability would be on the entire 100 rupees. That kind of understanding or that kind of interpretation is not there because of section 50 at all. I do not know from where this interpretation has been picked up and why this become a bigger issue. Because if you read the law carefully, it clearly states that interest you have to pay only on the amount which you fail to pay. And so far as if they would have asked the 25 rupees in this example, nobody would have challenged it, nobody would have raised any doubt. Now the two things will arise here. Since you do not file the return in time, whatever may be the reason, and the government thought you are liable to pay the interest on the gross amount, and that this amendment which is showing in the proviso which was made last year, and that is only in respect of the credit. That means there could be again I'm repeating my example, that total liability is 100 rupees, 25 rupees you paid by cash, 50 rupees you want to pay by input tax credit, and balance is 25. Suppose you don't file the return, they are asking you to pay the 100 rupees entire interest you have to pay, which they want to resolve it. Now question arises, this amendment which is there in the proviso was only taking care for the input tax credit. Now the next question arises, if you don't file the return within the time prescribed, would you liable to pay even on 25 rupees cash payment you have made from your pocket also? Our answer would be no. Therefore, whatever controversy has arisen, this amendment which they have made, and further they want to make this amendment retrospectively, still the question will remain, which you have to be very careful to examine and understand it. 25 rupees amount which you paid by cash from your pocket, they will still ask you to pay the interest on that amount. Therefore, this amendment or the GST recent decision, this will be retrospective. It will not resolve the entire problem. The problem will remain there about the cash payment, part payment which you have made. Therefore, we should be very careful. Let's discuss why this controversy further arisen. Because of this first decision which was there from the Telangana High Court in Magma Engineering. This decision, similar kind of issue was raised, and then court was not convinced with the petitioner, and it was ordered that you are liable to pay the interest on the full amount. However, this decision was again taken up before the Telangana High Court in the review petition. Review petition was accepted and interim order was passed. It may be possible that if you see the bottom of your slide, the Landmark Lifestyle Car Private Limited, a similar case was filed in Delhi High Court, and I am associated with this case. And we got the interim relief in the very first day of hearing, where despite department quoted and the Magma Engineering case, it was directed that no coercive action shall be taken. If you read the entire interim order, you will find that the Honorable Court has noted in the order that the assessee has already paid the interest on the amount which was short paid, and he had been asked to pay the interest even on the input tax credit, and the court was of the prima facie opinion that input tax credit no interest could be demanded. Therefore, this interim relief once was granted. Thereafter, probably the Magma Engineering review petition was filed, because it is the order in August 2019 and interim order of Delhi High Court is the May 2019, and the review petition is pending, and similar interim order has been passed in that petition also. Therefore, the court yet to decide on this issue, like Delhi High Court, whether person is liable to pay the interest on the gross amount or not. The two issue I want to bring to your notice, as I brought to your notice in the previous slide, one of the slide on 31st Council, the common portal word has been used in the 5th line, if you see, because it is the problem of the common portal. I further analyze Why this problem has arisen? Because in the GST law, the two new term has been introduced, that is called as the input tax credit register, and as well as the your cash credit register, something like this. These two term has been used. Therefore, the GST portal is making the register for each assessee. Whatever money you are depositing cash, they are keeping in that register. Whatever your input tax credit is there, that is keeping in their input tax credit register. Now this register is made by the GST the portal, and these are not being allowed to you to take or to transfer the fund from these register unless you file the return. Therefore, your transfer is not allowed because of the common portal. Though you have paid it, amount has gone to the Consolidated Fund of India, it is the property of the Government of India, but you are not allowed because of the common portal. How it is function, I do not know. Because of that, this problem has arisen. You please, friends, understand, which is my understanding of the law. We are all governed by the law. We are not governed by this common portal activity, who manage it, how manage it, whether he permit me or not. Therefore, we should not guided by such kind of things. We have to take a remedial steps, and accordingly, whoever has filed the case, whoever taken up these cases, have to build up their case on those parameters. I'm sure we will succeed in our case, and no interest will be payable on the gross amount at all, input tax credit as well as on the cash which you have already deposited. One more important aspect, you please take note of that. Once input tax credit is taken, ultimate credit will be available to us once vendor has deposited it with the government account. Let's say I purchase it from the X, and he has charged GST on from me. I paid the amount to him. He has paid the GST to the government account. That ultimately the final situation arises when initially we are entitled for the provisional basis credit, but ultimate credit based upon the vendor has deposited in the government account. Therefore, when the government has already collected that amount from my vendor, how I could not be allowed to take the credit, or how I could not be or could be liable to pay the interest on that amount once the government has already collected that amount? That is also an issue. I am sure I have clarified, but in the question answer, if you have any issue, you can raise those questions. These are the judgment. I am not taking into account whether it should be retrospective or not. Such kind of amendment is always taken as retrospective, like it happened in the income tax. Now, very interesting issue I am taking up. There is a transitional credit provisions introduced under section 140, etc. Now, the two things the department is doing. First thing, they are checking, issuing notices of the letter for the verification of your transitional credit. Secondly, they are issuing even the so-called notice as per this rule under section 73 and 74 of the CGST Act or the SGST Act. Now, the two questions arises. The first, whether under this rule we can issue a so-called notice under section 73 and 74 or not, or whether that rule could be so widened that give the power to the officers to verify the your books of accounts, etc., for the purpose of the transitional credit. Let me, before analyze it, I want to give my answer so that entire discussion you focus according to that. First thing is that 73 and 74 section is allowed to issue the so-called notice only whatever has happened in the GST law. The transitional credit is not the credit of GST. It is the credit you have taken either under the VAT Act or either under the Finance Act, that is service tax, or either under the Central Excise Act. Therefore, that credit, whether permissible or not, whether I have rightly taken or not, that proceeding cannot be initiated under the CGST Act. Once we will analyze section 73 and 74, you will appreciate that things. And if they have any problem, whether they could take the action under those act which has been repealed, etc., that is another issue. If they could not take it, that is the department has to lose their cases. But if they could not be permitted under those law, they cannot initiate action under the CGST Act. Secondly, they want to initiate the proceeding for the verification. If you see, this rule is permitting them for the verification of these things. Now the question arises whether the verification is permitted or not under this. Verification is not permitted, friends, under the CGST Act in this manner, because if you see the CGST Act carefully, I want to show you the one slide. Kindly just bear with me for a moment. The CGST Act, many provisions. You can see this slide as well as the next slide. These are the powers the central tax officer or the state tax officer can exercise. There is no other power for the verification of this. Therefore, what these two slides, I'm just repeating it, and I will share the branch to circulate to the participant later on these slides also, so that you have the ready with you. Every power of verification is a substantive power. The power of the substantive power come from the law. It cannot come from the delegated legislation. Tomorrow a government issue a notification, we will verify this. Tomorrow make a rule, we will verify this. The verification power is given under the law, that cannot be expanded. And verification procedure is also like section 61, you will see scrutiny of the return. 62 is their non-final, 63, etc. I will not read entirely. Therefore, you see all these provisions are very specific. If any verification has to be done according to these provisions only. Therefore, no power is there under the law. Therefore, this rule 121 cannot 117 cannot be 121 cannot be read in a manner that it expands the scope of the CGST Act. To my mind, neither there was a power to make such rules, and these rules cannot be held to be valid. But we are not for the time being on this. This rule cannot be made applicable like this. Second important aspect, you see, if you go through the CGST Act, wherever there is a power of verification, issuance of so-called notice, scrutiny of return, etc., there are specific forms have been prescribed. There will be notice under the prescribed form. To my mind, to my understanding, there is no such form for the purpose of Rule 121 also. Therefore, you have to be very careful. Though it may be a different outlook which you are hearing today, you would have taken it in a different fashion. But if you will read the law carefully, probably you will reach to the same conclusion. Let's now analyze the section 73 and 74. Then I will come on 117 1A also for a. This is the section 73, and 73 is at par except the word fraud, etc. have been used. It's read as determination of tax not paid, short paid, or erroneously refunded, or input tax credit wrongly availed or utilized for any reason other than fraud. 73 is for the fraud, etc. Now the question arises, if you read the subsection 1, which for the paucity of the time I don't want to read it, when this section can be utilized in particular case where we are talking about transitional credit, it says input tax credit wrongly availed or utilized. Now, my dear friend, you have to understand what is the meaning of input tax credit under the CGST Act. All these terms have been defined. Input tax credit does not mean the transitional credit at all. I'm sure this is there in the slide. You see, at the bottom, you see the input tax credit. In this slide means input tax credit means the credit of input tax. And what is the definition of input tax? If you read, I don't want to read, in details to save the time. Its input tax credit refer to all the taxes which have been imposed after the introduction of the CGST Act, like the central tax, state tax, IGST, and the further ABCD is talking about the tax paid on the reverse charge basis. Therefore, there is nothing about the transitional credit which is called as the input tax credit wrongly availed. Therefore, if you go back to the section 73, section 73 and 74 permit only for the issuance of so-called notice if the input tax credit was wrongly availed or utilized. Meaning thereby is that if the credit which was started in your account on account of the CGST Act or the IGST Act or the state GST Act or the Union Territory GST Act, whatever credit comes, that is known as the input tax credit. It is not covered the transitional credit at all. And you also further, to supplement and to support my argument, I also would like to draw your attention. If the proceeding could be initiated under the CGST Act for the input tax credit, that means the transitional credit which was for the service tax or the VAT, and as well as for the Central Excise Act, in those cases, then why they are taking up proceeding against you under those act also? I do not know whether you have any case or not. There are umpteen number of cases. One I took up before the Telangana High Court, and which we won that case, and we proved that the section 73 proceeding under the CGST Act could have been initiated only if I have not fulfilled the condition of transitional credit. If it could have been utilized, if it could have been maximum initiated under this section, if there are three conditions under section 143, 3 proviso is there. If I have not filed all the return, etc., then only transitional credit could have been questioned whether I am entitled or not. Transitional credit, if I am entitled under the previous act, it is only the transfer from that act to this act that cannot be permitted to be taken up. In my mind, under the CGST Act, no proceeding could be initiated. Now, another important aspect I want to touch upon, section 117 1A, because section 117 1A is much talked about. Why I am discussing it? It has extended the time period. My slide is showing 31st December 2019. I believe it was further extended up to 31st March 2020 also, and because of this corona things, and they have further probably have extended the time period up to June, etc. But we are not on the time period. What important aspect I want to discuss? Just I want to, because I am not able to see my whole slide because some part is covered with these. Can I? Sorry, I think yes, this has gone to the another side. Now you kindly see this 1171A, a very interesting proposition I want to show you, because that probably has not been deliberated upon. What I understand, those who have missed this Tran 1 credit because of XYZ any number of reason, there are number of decisions even from Gujarat High Court, Delhi High Court, so many other High Court. And what the department is taking the stand, the person has to approach to the nodal agency, whether you have the screenshot, whether you made an attempt to file your Tran 1 return, whether these things are there or not, then we will take a decision, and then we will decide whether you could be permitted or not. Now I am reading this amendment. You just forget the time period is not relevant here for the purpose of our discussion. Notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1, the commissioner may, on the recommendation of the council means the GST council, what I understand, extend the date of submitting the declaration electronically in the form Tran 1 by a further period so and so, in respect of the registered person who could not submit the said declaration by the due date on account of technical difficulties on the common portal, and in respect of whom the council has made a recommendation for extension. Just take into account the last two lines, that is very important. He says there was a technical difficulties on the common portal, because of that you could not submit the declaration. First part is that. Now whether common portal has technical difficulties or not, it is not unknown to anybody. It is most common features of the common portal, because every professionals, everyone in the government is crying the common portal is not working. Therefore, to my understanding, I need not to prove whether there was a technical difficulties on the common portal or not. I have compilation of the few decisions which is not there in this slide, where Bombay High Court, where the Delhi High Court and the other High Court raise eyebrow on the common portal. It is not functioning properly. It cannot take the load. It even cannot open. The people are lined up. They are not able to file their return. Therefore, if these are the circumstances, where is for the reason for individual assessee has to prove there was a common portal or not? It is like that maybe after 6 months, your GST officer may ask why you did not act on a particular date when there is a this lockdown period is going on. So should I prove there was a lockdown or not when it is known for the entire world? Therefore, in such a situation, if the common portal has any technical difficulties, it had, that's why this was time period was extended. Second part of this, kindly see it again, in respect of whom the council has made a recommendation for such extension. What is the meaning of this line, which is very offending, and on the basis of that rule again can be challenged, because so far as this rule has been challenged before various high court, it has been interpreted by the Gujarat High Court in Deepak Enterprises, etc. Same view was taken by the Punjab and Haryana High Court, Delhi High Court, that yes, if it could not be open, let common portal. But this particular ground has not been taken up, which I am going to discuss with you. It says even if there was a difficulties, technical difficulties in common portal, you have to make a request, and even if you prove that, then word and is there. That means that you have to fulfill the twin condition, not one condition, there was a technical difficulties. The second condition, this you have to read it jointly, is that your council will take a decision whether you will be given extension or not. For example, 100 people applied, that we had faced the technical difficulties, and out of 100 people, each individual case is being analyzed by the council, which has been told to the court. And what I am reading, I am not concerned with the council how they function it, because I am not privy of that their functioning at all. Then the council take a decision, and I came to know in certain cases they said your case is rejected. Now the question arises whether the council has a power to do so, whether the council is a subset of the commissioner or the common portal. Council is a constitutional body. Their function is well set out under Article 279A, and if you read that in details, therefore the council has no power to do it. Council has never been entrusted to do this function. They will take up and analyze the individual case to case. Therefore, how this amendment has been made, I do not know. How the council has came into the picture, how the council could exercise this power, how the individual case could be analyzed when there is a difficulties common portal. The second condition is well beyond the law. Time extension, whatever was said by the your Gujarat High Court, etc., which was challenged in in Supreme Court. Now, what I understand now, in last budget, the amendment has been carried out to give them the power to prescribe the time period, etc. I think that defect is cured now by the amendment in the CGST Act, but we are not concerned with that at all. I'm sure you would agree with my contention and this understanding of the law. Still, you have a query after at the end of this, you can raise those queries also. Now, friends, let's move further. I'm not going to read these judgments. I think it is well known. Siddhartha Enterprises, because you have a vested right, it cannot be taken away, etc. If you want to go through it, you can go through it. And now another interesting question, I want to flag it before you, and it may be first time coming up before you. Kindly read section 22, the 2 lines, which is very interesting. Because the question is that I want to raise, before you. If suppose one assessee is there in Delhi, he has the branch office and certain other offices at several places in the country, in the different states. Whether he is required to take registration in every places, or whether he can have the registration only in Delhi, that is the question. And I am raising this question only qua the CGST Act. I find that the CGST Act and the State GST Act is not at par. In many places you will find the deficiency, and one is under section 22. I am reading section 22 of the CGST Act 2 line. Every supplier shall be liable to be registered under this act in the state or the union territory other than special category state from where, this word is very important, kindly read with me, from where he makes a taxable supply of goods or services or both. So where he has to take a registration, he has to take a registration only in the state or union territory from where he makes a taxable supply. Now the question arises, from where he is making a taxable supply? this word has not been defined at all under the law. What is defined the place of business? What is defined? The so many things. To my mind, all these things become irrelevant, because once you read a section, you can't put yourself the certain words yourself. The word is very clear: from he make a taxable supply. I want to give the two example to you to make my point very clear. One SSC who has his corporate office in Delhi. All contract he received in Delhi only. He entered into the contract only in Delhi. He raised from Delhi. He raised the invoices from Delhi. He settled his account from Delhi. All payments are received in Delhi. But he has the certain branch office, let's say in Kolkata, in Chennai. He has the certain other office in another state, not the offices. He has the certain engineer employed who are working from their resident, as and when the call made by the office from Delhi, they go to the customer place and do the things. Now the question arises, from where he make a taxable supply. Therefore, suppose it is a X limited company. X limited company enter into a contract from Delhi and all activity taken place from Delhi. Though execution of that things has taken place sometimes and the different state. Whether the execution merely taken place from different state, whether is required to take registration under that state, that is a question. To my understanding, this law section 22 is not saying so. He merely says from where you make a taxable supply. So this company, X limited company, has taken a stand. We are making a supply only from Delhi, though execution is being done at the different places. Second example I would like to give. Suppose one SSC whose premises was in Gurgaon, Haryana. That is Haryana is a different state. He chartered accountant in Haryana advised that you go to Delhi and take the advice from JK Mittal. So I am sitting in Delhi. Delhi is a union territory, have a different GST. Now I advise them to file a writ petition, and they file a writ petition before a Chandigarh High Court. That is again a union territory, have a different territory under the GST. Now there are 3 state or union territories are involved in this. They engaged me to argue their case in Chandigarh. I went there. Now his chartered accountants are also there to assist me and to so many things. Now there are 3 places are involved. From where the service is being rendered, where the registration would take place, and where the liability would be discharged. If the government understanding would be understood, if the service will be deemed to be rendered at a place where you execute it, that means if you don't have any place of business, if you don't have any offices at all, and you are just going in the morning, coming back from there, you are supposed to take a registration there. Which address you will take a registration? On the Chandigarh High Courts, or in the Taj Hotel you stay there, or in the taxi you visited? How it could work at all? To my understanding, these provisions should be analyzed carefully, because that is unworkable legal interpretation is not possible in any law, because every High Court and Supreme Court said the interpretation of any provision should be given in such a manner which become the workable, because the problem has arisen because of the state and the center problem, not because of the assessee problem. Assessee was very happy to pay the tax at one place, and whatever distribution was to be made, it was between center and state, because they are fighting with each other. That's why the most complicated law has been made. Just giving a passing reference, one example: if you stay in a hotel in Mumbai, they said SGST credit will not be available to you. Is it the law was made with that intention? You will not be allowed to take a credit and pass on like this. It was never been such intention. Therefore, I thought I should discuss it with you, this proposition. Now, with the another point I want to take up here: if you have taken a registration under section 22, are you liable to take another registration under section 24 also? I will not go in detail because section 24 is quite long and cumbersome. There are so many things has been described it. Whether the separate registration is required for the 24 and 22. To my understanding, no separate registration is required. Section 22 and 24, because the language are totally different. Anyway, you can read it. I'm just flagging off one of the issue before you, because I have to cover many other issues, and there is a paucity of the time, because I want to provide you the enough time for your question answer also. Now, friends, very interesting topic to my heart. I want to take up with you. Very, just maybe 5 to 10 minutes. There is a concept called the self-assessment. Whether self-assessment is a myth or it is reality under the GST law, that is the main question. And because I am practicing this law for the last more than 20 years in the service tax and the central excise, etc., with my experience in those law, which because the self-assessment first time was started under the income tax law, which I understand, and thereafter it started under the service tax, central excise, and then extended to the custom also. Now question arises, if there is a self-assessment, do we have to undergo so much of scrutiny, so much of our complicated verification procedure by the different segment of the officers? For the time being, I am not discussing, I will discuss later part of my presentation, the multiplicity of the investigation by the different set of officers. At present, I am discussing whether the self-assessment is a myth or not. To my understanding, self-assessment is a total myth under the indirect tax, particularly now in the GST law. Why I am saying so? Take the example of the income tax law. Income tax has the real self-assessment procedure. Self-assessment is based upon the one premises that the government places the huge reliance upon the taxpayer. The taxpayer is honestly filing their return, and whatever return they have filed, that is accepted as it is in 99% cases. Only hardly 2-3% cases are taken up for the scrutiny. The income tax, probably 6 crores returns are being filed. If I think so, Bisan Bhai may be having the data. If it could be, seen the data, how many returns are being scrutinized under the income tax law throughout the country? Maybe 3-4% only. Because why? Because it is the real self-assessment, whether the assessee has evaded tax or not. Once you have made a procedure of self-assessment, you have to place a greater reliance and trust on the assessee. Whatever return they have filed, that is taken as a correct return, and only very minimal return is taken up for the scrutiny, and on the basis of that, the assessments are being carried out only for those assessees only. But on the contrary, if you the CGST Act or the GST law at state and other union territory law, there is a mechanism has been made in such a manner they don't place any reliance on the assessee at all. I'm just briefly giving you the things. If there was a self-assessment, then you have a matching concept also for the input tax credit, though it may not have been flag on as of now, but that is their intention ultimately. You have the e-way bill. What is the e-way bill? That means you are scrutinizing the assessee 24/7 whether the supply is properly made or not. You have the credit mechanism. I will make the payment, only then you allow me the credit within 180 days. Then my vendor make the payment, then only you make the credit. Is it not enough for the self-assessment? But in addition to that, the first time they have introduced the scrutiny of return under the GST law. To my understanding, this provision was not there in the service tax as well as in the central excise also. Less they scrutinize the return, but in addition to that, they still have many provision. They said you central excise the central tax officer will carry out the audit of your accounts. Now you have the, again I'm repeating it, you have the self-assessment procedure under the income tax. Have you ever heard that income tax officer will come to your premises or will call you for the audit of your records? No, never. So why this provision has been introduced here? If you have a self-assessment, then why audit is required at all? And before that, if you see, probably the section 39 is there, the chartered accountant will also carry out the audit, which was not there in the central excise and service tax earlier. Now, if the chartered accountant, which was the greater audit under the tax audit under the Income Tax Act, and there is a self-assessment, that was the end of the day, and no 100% assessee were being scrutinized by the income tax department. But here, despite self-assessment, despite e-way bill, despite the matching concept of the input tax credit, they will say 100 or the certain turnover limit, probably the 2 crores is fixed for the carrying out the audit by the chartered accountant. Now the chartered accountant carried out the audit. Despite that, they are saying the central tax officer or the state tax officer will also carry out the audit. So then why you have a self-assessment? I have been given the impression that if the COVID what they do, they say bring the records for the last 5 years. They do not even know whether the audit was conducted for how many years, because the 5 year was the maximum period for which they could have issued the so-called notice. That's why there is a permanent thing is there. If they want to do the audit, why for 5 years? Why not the every years? Because if they could have done my audit every year, I could have rectified my defaults. Why 5 years I have to wait? Therefore, these provisions, to my mind, I would be very harsh to say that these are the some of the draconian provisions for in the hands of the corrupt officers only, because these are not the self-assessment regime. If you don't trust on the SECI, remove self-assessment. Like earlier, there was an assessment in every indirect tax law. If there is an annual assessment, they have to do. If they will do the annual assessment, I would be very happy. At least my all faults, etc., I will come to know at the year end only. I need not to wait for 5 years. Therefore, I can save my interest, I can save my penalties, I can save so many burden, even if I have fault. But if I am not fault, why I should go for all these things? This was my view. Now, very interesting one, slide 71, I want to show to you. 71. This is called the, I heard somewhere, I don't have the, that visa at all. I heard there is a green card holder. If you want to go to the USA, if you have a green card, you can anytime go and, come back. This provision is like the green card, access to business premises. For your benefit, I'm just reading it for you, for your interest only. And then I will just switch over to the new topic because the time is very, very short. Any officer under this act authorized by the proper officer not below the rank of the joint commissioner shall have access to any place of business of a registered person to inspect books of accounts. ये word बहुत important है. You listen carefully these words. Inspection of the books of accounts, documents, computers, computer program, computer software, whether installed in the computer or otherwise. That means you might have kept in your pocket also, maybe in your mobile. Such other things as may be required and which may be available at such places for the purpose of carrying out any audit, scrutiny, verification and check as may be necessary to safeguard the interest of the revenue. Probably they compiled old dictionary of the word, Oxford, Collin, Business Dictionary, Legal Dictionary, and whatever words was there possible, they put in this section. But one word which you have to see is missing, which should have been there. No business premises could have been accessed without there being reason to believe, that there have been a certain kind of activity took place, then they should have permitted to come. Now you read it that these words are missing. Therefore, these officers has the power. As and when they want, they can come to your premises without any reason, without recording any reason. They can give authorize to any person. Okay, Mr. Mittal is creating a lot of problem for us. He's taking up many cases. Go to his premises and check everything. And only safeguard for me is that I'm not a registered person. So they will not be able to come to me. But all you are registered. So therefore, their premises they can check. Now, if they have the green card visa, then why there is a requirement of this, the provision for the audit here and the provision for the section 60, 7 for the search, etc., where there is a cumbersome provisions where they have to record the region if they want to access my premises to carry out the search. If without reason to record, they can come to my premises for everything. Search as a limited things. But here they can do audit, they can do scrutiny, verification, check. They can check my everything. They can take my pen down. Therefore, such a drastic provision they have made. If now you search out any provision since 1947, the India got independence till today, except the GST law, no such kind of wholesale power has been given. If you will challenge this provision, I am sure these will be struck down, because the revenue cannot make a provision in such a manner which is highly tilted towards the revenue without giving any reason. Every such provisions must have a safeguard, like such cannot be carried out without recording a reason basis of the material they have collected. In this case, without having collected material, without recording a reason, they can enter to your premises. Therefore, it is a very draconian provision. As soon as the superintendent will become more corrupt, they will use such power in wholesale manner, and life will become hell of the every SSC. No self-assessment tax in everywhere in the world will have such kind of draconian provision at all. And therefore, since 2017, when the GST law was launched, no person, probably in my opinion, would have given such kind of presentation to you. These are the draconian provisions which could be used against us and which will be used so many times. Now I want to come straightway to some newer things. I just want to skip all these things because the time is very short. Yes, multiple overlapping jurisdiction is the issue we are taking up. Then we will come on the saving clause. I understand that there is a race between the central tax officer and the state tax officer, who will come first to your premises and the taxpayer premises. And both even are making, the one is making search, another is making scrutiny. Even within the central tax department, there are many departments. One old name you must be knowing, that DGCI, which is the draconian name. They try to mellow down and given a new name, GGI. But it is the same people, same department, same office, same table, same chair, same mindset. It has not been changed. Another department called the preventive department. Another is called the audit department. They have so many departments. Probably they will create few more because they want to suck the blood of every SSC in various way. Is it a way to make a self-assessment tax? Every officers first will come the central tax officer of your jurisdiction. Another letter will come from the DGCI. Another letter will come from the preventive department. Other letter will come from the state tax officers. What is the solution to it? Now I want to give the certain case law, and I'm sure you will appreciate an answer to these all. Even if presume that all have a concurrent jurisdiction, though I don't agree with that, let's presume it. They have the concurrent jurisdiction. The law is well settled. Whoever has exercised the jurisdiction first, that will only have the jurisdiction. No other person can exercise the jurisdiction. I want to expand it further. Like suppose the central tax officer has carried out the audit under section 65 of the CGST Act, and he has given you memo, audit memo, etc., and whatever tax he has determined, and you paid it DRC 01A, whatever his form is there. Now after a year or so, who will come? The DGCI will come. They said, no, we want to scrutinize. You have evaded tax. Then again the same books of accounts, same thing will be verified. Then you will say it has been scrutinized by the audit officers. They say, no, that auditor has not taken into account this point. We are scrutinizing this point, he has taken this point. Now what is the law on that? So I'm sure this law you have understood. The two judgments I have quoted here. If there is a concurrent jurisdiction, multiple jurisdiction, first who has exercised the jurisdiction, that will be the only officer. Rest cannot exercise the jurisdiction at all, because it is the law required the such kind of things. Now you see the more important law, which I have got decided under the service tax law, the same thing happened. In the service tax law, like in the EB's case, the jurisdictional officers was carrying out the audit. They were carrying out the audit memo were issued. After audit, assessee did not agree to the certain points, then so cause notice were issued. All so cause notice for year to year were decided in favor of the assessee. Now one day the DGCI feel, no, we will go there. And they arrested even the CMD also. And they said, no, you are evading a huge tax, 17 crores and 21 crores like this and that. When this was challenged, how the High Court interpreted the law, and you see, I have quoted the two line, and the High Court said, Delhi High Court, DGCI has sought to reassess the service tax liability of the EBs for the past period without resorting to any non-procedure under the law. What does it mean? I argued that, is there any provision for reassessment? Is there any provision of review by the officers? If one person has carried out, he has taken my balance sheet, he has taken my books of accounts, he has scrutinized all my, the accounts. After scrutinizing, if he feel that I am liable to pay 1 crore rupees tax, he issued so cause notice. It was decided in my favor. What is the business of the DGCI to come and to examine the books of accounts for the same very period, for the same very SSC? That means you are exercising the power of review, which is not vested with you under the Act. Therefore, whatever is not permitted directly, it cannot be permitted indirectly also. And that is the wholesome issue was decided in this case. The para 52 also, I want to read just some portion, because this judgment has now been upheld by the Supreme Court also, which you can see in the slide at the bottom, and which we argued in this case also. Audit investigation under Rule 5A, which is akin to now Section 65. जो audit power has been given under the GST law, which was earlier there in the rule, cannot either insignificant or of a lesser scope for the purpose of the determination of whether there has been evasion of service tax, and reference to the earlier audit inquiry search is necessary. So whenever the next level officer want to scrutinize the books of accounts, it is necessary for him, before he order for the search, etc., he should contact to the jurisdictional officer. He should collect all data, whether the past period any audit has been done, any investigation has been done, any inquiry has been done, what is the outcome of it. Therefore, he cannot just go for the search, etc. I want to make money, I want to just harass SSC. That is not permissible in the law at all. If you understand these law, if you understand these judgment carefully, if you read time and again, you will be enriched with a lot of knowledge. You will have a quite confidence that what you are thinking is correct, and officer is exercising the power not because of the law has vested with them, but because of the mala fide. You see the another judgment, though if the judgment you will see, probably I lost the judgment which is under review, but the many things has been said in our favor. With this overlapping, what has been said in para 32 of this judgment, which is a most celebrity judgment, where the DGCI was a party. DGCI has taken a contention that despite the audit was conducted, a verification has been done by the jurisdictional officer, we will again exercise the same power. The court rejected that contention. I quote and read as under para 32. The stand of the respondent that the Rule 5A1 is for the periodical check and not for the specific investigation or inquiry is wrong and unacceptable. Therefore, whenever there is a this stand is being taken, you read these judgments, you read why these arguments was taken, how it come to the conclusion, then you will definitely be confident that this overlapping power which is being exercised is not correct under the law at all. This should not have been done. The whatever is being done is absolutely, to my mind, is illegal, and that cannot be permitted. I am not going for the time being of the paucity of the time under the rules, the 6, but one circular I want to show to you, the GST Council circular, Section 6 I have not picked up, but the gist, this circular was issued by the GST Council. I do not know whether they have the power or not, but this circular is in benefit of the assessee. I'm reading it for you, some line I have drafted myself. You can take out the printout of this circular and can read carefully. This circular was issued basis of the decision taken in the 9th meeting of the GST Council, and 21st meeting of the GST Council. And inter alia, it was stated in that circular that there will be a division of taxpayers base between the center and state to ensure a single interface, and guideline was issued how this division shall be made. I understand that division has been made. Any assessee who is the assessee under the GST law, if he go to his common portal, probably I have been told, because I am not dealing with the procedural things, if there is a some indication come on the portal itself whether you are under the central jurisdiction or the state jurisdiction. Therefore, if your jurisdiction has been well defined by the GST Council has taken a decision, and thereafter all the state and center has taken a decision, if by decision, let's say, assume under the central tax officer, how the state tax officer can exercise the power, because they have taken a conscious decision. So you can challenge their action by showing this circular also. This was the conscious decision was taken. I cannot be taken to task and to time and again go for this purpose. This was my for the overlapping. Before coming to the Mohit Mittal, I want to show you the another things of the saving clause. What I understand that there is a total the confusion whether the saving clause, how it will be read. 174(2) in Gujarat High Court in OWS case, which I am arguing, we have already obtained a stay. There is no saving for the rule, and therefore they granted the stay under Rule 5A, and which has been followed by Delhi High Court and other high courts also, Calcutta High Court and Jharkhand High Court also. So far as interim order is concerned, some views are there. No, they can go for the under the despite the GST law has come into force, they can reopen and they can go for the audit, scrutiny, etc., for the service tax and for central excise, etc. To my mind, probably they cannot do it. I have got the one judgment which is on the basis of the GST law. I'm just reading only para 1110 110 in which these words has been noted by the Kerala High Court. Repeal of the statute result in nullification of the subordinate legislation in the repealed statute has, and there. That means whatever the law was made, if that law has been repealed, then all the subordinate legislation automatically is repealed. You can't say the law is repealed but the subordinate legislation continue. That is the first understanding, because there are one school of thought, the rule is not repealed at all. Now the second question also arises, whether the Finance Act is repealed or omitted. Is there any difference between omission and the repeal? In fact, you see the bottom of this slide, there is no difference. This is the 2015 decision of the Supreme Court, where they said omission and repeal be treated at par. There is no difference between the omission and repeal. Therefore, the Finance Act has also been repealed by the CGST law, and therefore there is no truth behind that. It is not repealed; it is only omitted. Now, the another one of the judgment I quoted, Ambelal judgment, in which I quote the few words which you can take for your benefit. That the mandate of Section 6. Let me clarify that Section 174(2), if you will read, also says that the provision of the General Clauses Act under Section 6 will also applicable on the repealed act. So even if they would not have said, it will automatically be applicable. And 174(2) also has been almost in the line of the Rule 6, Section 6 of the General Clauses Act. Therefore, in this judgment, what has been, I'm quoting the few lines, the mandate of Section 6 of the General Clauses Act is simply to leave the pending proceeding unaffected with which commenced under the repealed provision unless contrary intention is expressed. Therefore, what is saying, the pending proceeding will be continuing unless you have a contrary intention, you specifically say. If the 174(2) is interpreted in a manner by the court, thus yes, a fresh proceeding also could be initiated, that would be different. To my understanding, as of now, there is no final judgment on that, but our point is that the fresh proceeding cannot be initiated. This judgment also says further, in view of Section 6 of the General Clauses Act, it was also held that it is clearly specified that the repeal shall not revive anything not in force or in existence. What I am trying to emphasize that in this judgment also all the 5 clauses A, B, C, D has been analyzed. What happened in 174(2) also you see there is a clause A, B, C, D, E. What the government officers are trying to impress upon you, read the clause E directly. No, you have to read all the clauses together. Secondly, 174(2) start with the word shall not. Therefore, each clause you read, even the clause E, you have to read with shall not. Therefore, the clause E, they pick up a one word which has been used as the institute. They said we can institute the fresh proceeding. If clause E has to be read in totality, it says shall not. So if you read with the shall not, then the different phrase will come and different view will emerge, which you can refer the division bench interim order of the Jharkhand High Court of probably the 4th April 2019, where they said institute prima facie means only the proceeding which was instituted prior to the GST law, that will continue, not the fresh proceeding. I hope I have clarified this issue to you briefly, but still you have any query. Let's the few of the issue I want to touch upon this the Mohit Mittal case. Therefore, in previous the slide I want to say the audit which they are trying to carry out for the past period up to 2017 June, to my understanding they cannot carried out, could not be carried out. Delhi High Court has granted stay in number of cases. Calcutta High Court has granted stay. Even the Gujarat High Court has granted the stay. You can take the benefit of it. Mohit Mittal case, I believe it has already been discussed yesterday, but I want to touch upon the 2-3 things only very briefly. One question came to me whether this judgment will have a bearing throughout the country or whether it will have a bearing on only in the state of Gujarat. You kindly see this slide. At the bottom of this slide, the second part, the 2 judgment, Cannon Steel as well as the Kusum Ignot I have quoted. In these 2 judgment, Supreme Court has categorically said when a writ petition is questioning the central law, and if the central law, whether interim order is passed or a final order is passed, now we have a final judgment before us in the Mohit Mittal case, it will have a applicability throughout the country, subject to the applicability of that act in a particular state. Suppose if one state act is not applicable. That is the first part of that. The second part is that if suppose the particular High Court take a contrary view, then that High Court has a free view, because the judgment is not binding on the High Court, but the judgment is binding on the authority. Authority cannot take a different stand in the different High Court. Therefore, if they lose the case in the one High Court, that means they have lose the case finally. They cannot say that a different High Court will take a different view. Like I am taking up these type of cases in Delhi High Court, which will come after this vacation will over, and in Indore bench before the MP High Court, they filed an application. They said don't take up this case now because we are going to challenge this Mohit Mittal case in the Supreme Court. Therefore, they themselves has accepted that this will have a bearing in throughout the country. To my mind, there is no doubt about it. Another question which I have quoted another judgment of the Wealth Tax Act, the Inder Sharma case in the top of this slide. And the question was raised whether once they lose the case, the Mohit Mittal case, where the certain SSC already paid the GST on the ocean freight, and on the basis of that they took the credit also, whether the department can come and raise an issue that this credit is not entitled because this tax itself is not applicable. Therefore, you have to refund the input tax credit. To my mind, the department will not succeed on that, because till this judgment came, their stand was that we are entitled to take the tax on that. If the assessee has paid the tax and taken a credit, he was within his right. So this judgment I have quoted the Inder Sharma in the case that where the officer took a stand that for the purpose of levying wealth tax, the particular assets was treated as an assets under the Wealth Tax Act, but that building was coming under the exemption also. But while claiming the exemption, the assessee took an exemption, then the same officer is saying no, then building will not be treated as an asset for the purpose of wealth tax. The High Court said if the same building is treated under the Wealth Tax Act for the purpose of levying tax as an asset, then you can't say it is not an asset at all. Therefore, if the ocean freight was subject to a levy of tax, that was a stand of the GST officers. They cannot take a stand now for recovering the input tax credit that it was not a tax at all. That stand will not be held valid at all to my mind. I think I should end here and leaving the floor open for the question answer. Thank you very much. Thank you for all of you. I hope I have given the fruit for thought to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And now we will start question answer. I'll just open my screen so everybody is able to see the same. So, sir, there are a couple of questions in this slide. That first, is arresting of any persons under GST law valid without following any assessment process?
Yes,
Mittal, sir, if you can deliver it.
Yes, I can hear you. I can
Yes.
hear you. Just a minute.
Yes, sir.
So far as this question is concerned, I would say they have the power to arrest. But the question which has been interpreted, by the court before the GST came was different. And the GST, came in the EB judgment, which I have shown to you. It was decided that the certain procedure before a so-called notice should have come, and thereafter only one can, adjudication, it could have been done. I understand that the Madras High Court has taken into account the Delhi High Court make my trip and EB judgment, has given the similar view. Gujarat High Court has also admitted the petition. I think so. The law is yet to evolve. The Telangana High Court judgment is there, with the Supreme Court refused to accept the SLP. The people have taken that judgment as a judgment. That's why I understand the one judgment which is against the SSC, neither the SSC nor department raise a question whether it has applicability throughout the country or not. When the Mohit Mineral judgment has come in our favor, then there is a question whether it is applicable to the Gujarat only, whether it is applicable to the other state or not. To my mind, the law will evolve in that, but as per the CRPC provisions, the Desh could not, take any proceeding, to my understanding, unless any FIR is registered or a complaint is filed. They are just arresting a person without filing a complaint. That is absolutely absurd in the law. Next,
Sir, second question is treating of works contract as service under GST law valid? As Article 366(29)(a) of the Constitution of India treat works contract as still deemed sale of goods.
There are 2-3 views. First thing, view is that the GST law is being levied. That is notwithstanding anything contained in Article 246. If you read to that extent, that a different picture will emerge. But if you read the Article 366(29)(a), that was not the power to levy tax. Power to levy tax under this was under entry 54. Read with the Article 246. Therefore, once the entry 54 has been amended and the limited power has been given to levy the sales tax, because it has not been fully merged, the VAT Act has not been fully merged on the 5-6 item only. Therefore, this entry may become redundant as of now, but that could be a new food for thought, good ground to take into account in a litigation. The court, this point is not of a litigation. You are only asking a prima facie opinion. but that could be a good ground to take a good litigation in the court. As of now, I will say prima facie there is a good law that they could tax it because this entry has become redundant.
Sir, I'll take question 5 in this slide because for 3 and 4 are not of the current topics, today's topic. So is rule 36.4 is valid for restriction of credit of 110% as per GSTR 2A? In view of GSTR 2 is only applicable of GSTR 1. If you can touch.
I will not answer to this question in a manner in which is put to me, because I am not the Supreme Court or the High Court, whether it's valid or not. This is not for my adjudication. What I would suggest, yes, it is a good ground to take up such kind of cases in the court, and I believe certainly these challenge has already been made and the court had entertained the petition. Therefore, I think so those who are arguing the case, they will take it to the logical conclusion, because what they made is a very absurd law. Because my argument would be further on the same thing which I have just talked about, the self-assessment tax. You already have a self-assessment tax. Why you want to create so many barriers? Whether the GST law was to create obstacles in the life of the taxpayers, or whether it was for the ease of doing business. If I'm entitled for the credit, I am entitled. You have made a 10 type of. I just want to give the few example. The person has mistook that if you have a e-way bill, you are entitled to take credit. Merely because you have a e-way bill, still they can disallow you the credit. If you read the section, probably the section 16, there are certain conditions there. You must have an original bill, whether you have received the goods or not. They will ask all these questions after 5 years. Who will keep all these records? You have the thousands of, the e-way bill, you have thousands of invoices. Where you will keep it? Therefore, there should have been a the self-assessment base and a physical assessment year-to-year basis or 6-month basis, so that the thing can be thrust out. Next.
So, sir, what you say is that Modi ji said this is a good and simple tax, and how they made it is something great, or what we can say we are not able to digest. Now I'll take next slide.
Just to make the comments on your things, what Modi ji said, a simple tax, and that means all other things you want to put on Modi ji head, I am not agreed to that. In fact, what happened as a leader, like you are a secretary of the branch, you take a decision. If something happens, suppose because of the internet is not working of the 1 or 2 places, somebody will say Bishan is responsible for that, we could not view the webinar. Can it be held so? Because so many people work upon it. To those who have drafted the law, they have given a reassurance to the Modi ji, it is for ease of doing business. But it is not an ease of doing business, because the Modi ji is not an expert of the law. Modi is not a taxpayer. So those who drive the car, only they knows whether the road is good or not. Only Gadkari's statement you have heard that I made a road for you. You can have a cup of tea while driving. Whether it is possible or not, once we will drive, like I have a pleasure of driving or from Ahmedabad to Vadodara, I really enjoyed your stretch that.
Rahul bhai, can you take this?
Provisional attachment.
Sir, the next question is the provisional attachment of the property. Any officer other than the commissioner is valid, because as per section 83 of the CGST Act, only a commissioner has the power of the provisional attachment. However, the provisional attachment is made by other than the commissioner in view of the section 5 subsection 3 of the delegation of power under CGST Act. And sir, along with this, I also want to add, right now they are doing the provisional attachment without any proceeding under 62, 63, 64, 67 or 73, 74 is going on, or they are issuing the provisional attachment notice.
To my understanding, the Gujarat High Court has already delivered a final judgment on these issues also. These are not the valid proceeding at all. First thing is that there should be some pending proceeding under the specified section. If there is no pending proceeding under those provision, like the Gujarat High Court said, a search is carried out. Once you have carried out the search and come back, that proceeding has come to an end. You may be investigating the issues, but you cannot attach the bank account, etc., by exercising the power under this section. Similarly, when the power has been given to the commissioner, he has to exercise that power. That power cannot be delegated. Therefore, this section is not permitting for the delegation of the power. If such attachment has been done, this power has been exercised, these are invalid. You can challenge in the court of law.
So now the question is, when the director gives his place to company for official use, whether RCM has to be paid on reverse charge mechanism or a forward charge mechanism. If you remember that Rajasthan Advanced Ruling Authority has given one judgment that remuneration to director is also liable to be taxed under reverse charge. Your view, sir?
The two views. First thing is that the remuneration, so far as those director is working in the capacity of as employee of the company, and the employee relationship is outside the preview of the GST. Therefore, there is no question of levying, the GST on that. And so far as the Advanced Ruling Authority ruling is concerned, I will say it is an agreement between the two parties, and we should not read much about it. When any decision come against us, and we think that is not even a decision under the law at all. This is a decision for a particular party. If you read, I read as a student when I was doing my CA. Then first time the Advanced Ruling Authority provision was introduced under the income tax law, and since then I have made up my mind. Advanced Ruling Authority is an agreement between the two parties. Nobody should read it. I never read it. Initially I read one or two decisions. Now I never read, because these are not binding. Secondly, what is the who exercise this power? The Joint Commissioner level officers. Whether he is a judicial officer, what kind of Advanced Ruling Authority are headed by the former judge of the Supreme Court. There would have been some sanctity. He would have understood the law. Therefore, I don't think so much about it. Now, coming to your question, if the person who is a director of a company has rented his premises to a company, that is an independent activity. It will not come under the reverse charge mechanism at all, because this is an independent activity. I like the same person could be a father, he could be a husband, he could be a son also. If he is wearing the many hats, he is a service provider for renting of premises. If the renting is taxable, there is no reverse charge in the renting. So how the director will be liable to pay a reverse charge? It cannot be held valid at all.
So the next question is, sir, if the Harit bhai,
Rahul, continue.
Okay, if there is insufficient zero balance in credit ledger, whether the reversal of transitional credit will attract the interest?
I could not follow it. If there is an insufficient balance in the credit ledger, whether the reversal of transitional credit, the transitional credit become the part of the credit only.
Yes, sir, but with some reason, if someone is required to reverse that credit which they have took in the transitional phase, and that has been exhausted, and now they want to reverse it, his interest will be applicable on that. That is what I guess queries want to ask.
Reverse means reverse because he has illegally taken a credit, or reverse means on what purpose? Illegally taken credit?
Yes, sir. Yes.
If the transitional credit was illegally taken, then I have already told you under section 73 and 74 there is no provision for taking those cases. That was the credit under those act. So therefore the proceeding should have been initiated under those act only, because the illegality or legality of the transitional credit cannot be examined under the CGST Act. CGST Act only to see whether you are entitled for the transitional credit or not. If you are not entitled, then you have taken illegal credit. That is a different issue.
So in case of reversal of ITC, that is ineligible for under Rule 42 at the time of audit, whether it will attract interest. Yes, it's a procedural aspect, but yes, if it is ineligible under Rule 42, it attracts the interest. Yes.
Rule 42. If Haritji, do you know the Rule 42? Because I have not read the rules.
Sir, we can skip it. We can take this question.
Sir, request to briefly explain the Messrs Commercial Steel Engineering Corporation versus the state of Bihar with respect to section 73.
Judgment name I could not remember. Probably the Bihar High Court has given one decision on 73. If you remember it briefly, you can explain me, then I may recall the entire things. No, because that would be very difficult, because the judgments, if somebody want to know, he could have sent me in advance. I could not recollect. What was this?
A foreign company X has sold softwares to customers in India. To serve these customers in India, like providing troubleshooting services, maintenance, etc., X has asked an Indian company why to take employees on payroll. So this is actually based on supply, export of service or place of supply. There is a specific topic on it, so we will take at that time. Office is in Delhi and the other manufacturing is going to start in Telangana. So only few employees are in Telangana, but accounting, procuring, etc. services are managed at Delhi. Delhi office, Delhi need to raise invoice to Telangana. If yes, how to calculate or can take a nominal amount? Sir, I guess it's possible, and if the person is able to take the credit, then no issues if it is on the nominal amount.
Yes, there is a one rule 128.
The next question is, sir, can we claim the ITC on the following? A person registered in Gujarat, he goes to Mumbai, therefore Maharashtra, and stays in the hotel. Can the ITC of the CGST portion to be claimed even if he has no any registration in Maharashtra?
To my understanding, yes, it could be taken, because if you read the section 49, there is no bar. This bar has come because of the common portal is not permitting to you, probably because this question was raised since 2017 July only. I asked to many participants in various platform, why you feel so this credit will not be available. Everybody is answering that. Some of the officers said yes, it will not be available. Some said portal is not allowing. The question is not on the portal or the officer view. Question is that whether the law debar us for taking credit. To my understanding, section 49 is not debarring us for taking such credit at all. If the procedural difficulty is there, we should challenge that in the court. The procedure has to be rectified.
But sir, can't we say that since GST is a consumption based tax and the consumption of these services are in Mumbai or Maharashtra, then the state of Maharashtra should get the portion of this tax and not Gujarat?
Let me give you one example. I'm practicing in Delhi. For the time being, forget I'm an advocate, because that is a reverse charge. Suppose I'm a chartered accountant in Delhi and appearing before the various authority throughout the country. Every day I will stay in a hotel, I will go for traveling, etc. If my 80% of expenditure I will not able to credit, was it the intention of the GST? I will be debarred for taking credit for any expenditure. Even prior to the GST, I was eligible for all such credit. Was not that time it was a destination based tax? Therefore, if that is the law, there is some kind of deficiency in the law, because the prior to the GST, they said the GST will we will remove the cascading effect, the whole credit will be available. Where is the GST law is saying? They should have said in the plain word in the GST law, this credit will not be available, this credit will not be available, this credit will not be available. That is the not on the basis of the any other things. I will go by the law. Law has not making any such provision for debarring us for taking such credit.
And sir, I can definitely accept your view, because GST, introduction of the GST is to give the credit is one of the main principle. And if Safari retreats in Orissa High Court also affirm that view, that yes, credit should be eligible in case of construction also.
Yes. Yes.
Sir, in this case, what is your view of SGST credit?
That is that's why I'm asking whether there is any bar under the section 49 or any other section.
Sir, because the state tax definition says that the tax levied under that particular state.
So far as what I can recollect, I have read the long time back. If I have not read the state tax, it may be different. I already made in my presentation a comment. State tax are differently worded at several places. Section 49, if you read it, 49, there is no such bar about the state tax or the center tax. Only thing is that how is the procedurally, common portal is allowing and adjusting, and I do not know. So to my understanding, if you can throw some light, yes, section 49, you are reading it, because of that there is a bar. I can, read it and can explain to you.
The next question is, sir, kindly share on your views on the compensation cess issued by the Honorable Supreme Court in case of the Mohit Mineral, whether there is any chance of review petition, and the Honorable High Court in case of the Anmol India Limited had given the stay before the judgment was delivered by Honorable Supreme Court. Does the writ petition automatically give dismiss, or Delhi High Court can hear the matter on the any other valid grounds?
So far as the Mohit Mindal case is concerned, review petition has already been dismissed, because in Supreme Court review petitions are dismissed, like in manner there is no hearing is granted. It is the chamber Supreme Court decide and they dismiss it. So far as Anmol case is concerned, I do not know, but two of my cases are there. In one case of the cess has been taken up for hearing, and the department filed the application in that case Agarwal Coal, that because the Mohit Mindal case has been decided, therefore our case in the Agarwal Coal on the same thing has to be heard and decided. Where the argument was taken, it should be dismissed. I said no, it cannot be dismissed. You have to hear as per their application. The court heard, and after that the order was passed, we will hear in detail. So we have taken the various grounds, and to my understanding, a Mohit Mindal case is not a good law at all. There are 3-4 important points there, just for the benefit of the person who has raised this query. I want to say, first thing is that there is an amendment under section 271, and that's 271, article 271, not the section, article 271 of the constitution, that no surcharge or additional tax could be levied. Now you read the Mohit Mindal recent judgment of Gujarat High Court. In that judgment, this article 271 has been quoted, probably para 126 or so. An entire table has been given. As per the amendment made in the constitution, no additional surcharge could be levied on the GST amount at all. That would benefit us. Secondly, amendment has been made in article 248 also, which does not permit to levy the tax under entry 97, which was said in the Mohit Mindal case, without looking into account these amendments. The third thing is that article 270 have also been amended. Clause 1A has also been added, that whatever GST is being collected, that will be distributed as per the report of the Finance Commission, where the compensation section 9 is allowing the distribution of credit to the state without asking for the recommendation of the Finance Commission. That section itself is contrary to the article 271A. 1A is a new clause has been added by the constitutional 101st amendment. Therefore, all these amendment has not been taken into account. Therefore, there is a good chance. I do not know about the Anmol who has filed it, who has taken up this case, but I have taken up the Agarwal Coal case, which is the hearing was to take place. In fact, now because of the COVID, this could not, the court is not functioning. There is a good chance to take up these cases. High Court may not deliver the entire judgment on that, but if High Court noted down all these deficiency, it would be a good case to another round of litigation in the Supreme Court. I want to make a closing remarks on this issue is that, my dear friends, if any judgment is delivered, either in favor or against, that is not the end of the game. You again can try your luck, and luck can change your entire things. One particular judge has a different mindset. On that particular day, might not have certain point was taken up. One particular day, one advocate might not have been able to convince to the judges. Like the example, lottery was decided one point of time is a goods, and after 25 years, the same Supreme Court decided and reversed that judgment. Lottery is not a goods. So any decision can come anytime.
Sir, the question is, if any matter is pending before Supreme Court on taxability and SSE does not want to pay penalty and judgment does not come in favor of SSE, what SSE is required to do?
The penalty, is almost like on a mens rea. Section 122, we can read here, now it has been amended. If you are able to convince that you have a bona fide intention, like there may be a decision of interpretation, different High Court has taken a different decisions, in such a case penalty is not levied. But I want to add here the very important aspects which I have taken up in many cases, but so far as that issue has not finally adjudicated by any of the High Court and Supreme Court. In income tax, how the act function: first the assessment is made and then a penalty notice is issued. That means the penalty is a different proceeding. Same thing was there in the service tax. If you read the law carefully, I am sure most of the participants would not have knowledge of that, because we all missed it. Section 83 was there in the Finance Act, and the Section 86 for filing of appeal was saying you can file an appeal before the tribunal against the decision delivered under Section 73, against the decision delivered under Section 85, against the decision delivered under Section 83A. 83A was only empowered to give a decision for adjudication of penalty only. Therefore, the penalty proceedings are always independent. But what happened in the indirect tax, since independence, all this excise department is assuming and presuming a so-called notice is once issued, penalty is automatic. I am sure all my friends will agree, those who appear before the commissioner, etc. He never hear anything on penalty. He hear only on the merits of the case. If case is decided against you, penalty is always confirmed. But the law is not like that. We can take up a new round of proceeding. The penalty proceedings are independent, for which independent notice to be issued, and independent ingredients are there. I should be given an independent opportunity, and then it will be decided. So penalty is not automatic. You can fight your case. If case is before me, then only I can suggest it. Otherwise, whatever guidance I could have given, I have given. Yes, next.
Rahul. Sir, in a recent circular providing SOP for defaulters in filing GST returns, department is given power to attach bank account by section 75 subsection 12 even if a single GST return is not filed. It appears that one single default is considered to be a severe default. Whether department has power to attach such bank account in such cases or circular, is this circular challengeable?
Circular is not valid. SOP is for their internal functioning. I do not know whether it is publicly available or not. Otherwise, I will challenge it some point of time, because they don't give all these things. If you will ask them, they will say it is for internal circular. And secondly, I don't think so. Section 83, section 75 is mentioned. Therefore, the merely not filing the return, they cannot go for these things. I can remember I have taken up one case in the Gujarat High Court where the search was carried out, and in the Panchanama they clearly written because they did not file the service tax return, and the Gujarat High Court admitted my writ petition pending for final adjudication only on this ground. I said I don't file the return, and merely because non-filing of return does not empower you to take the action against me for the search. Search has a limited provisions, therefore they could not have taken any action. The non-filing of return, I don't think so the provision is mentioned, because provision is mentioned for the provisional attachment section 62, 63, 64, 67, 73 and 74. Non-filing of return is not covered to my mind.
Sir, one more thing. In 75 subsection 12, it is talking only when the recovery is pending on account of the self-assessment tax, and that is due when the return under section 39 is filed. So this SOP is contradicting at all 75 subsection 12.
Yes.
The next question is how section 6 should be interpreted, as there is a blanket authorization of the officer of the another jurisdiction. We have already gone through the same.
Section 6 is also talking about issuance of some notification. I understand only one notification was issued, that is for the purpose of refund only. Now the section 6 is a worded not very plain language. It gives an impression that if no notification issued, still power can be exercised, but as such the notification issued for the limited purpose only. To my understanding, I have challenged it somewhere the certain proceeding, and that proceeding was decided to some extent in our favor by saying that no, we will not take this assessment here, etc. But that is very interesting proposition. I only want to add, for the benefit of all my friends, those who are on the webinar, very interesting point. Section 6, let's assume given the power to the state tax officers. Now I am registered, let's say in the Gujarat, I am registered in Delhi, I am registered in Mumbai, Calcutta, or several other places. Now if state tax officer will exercise the power, can the Gujarat state tax officer could be given the power to exercise the power in the all my state? It can never happen. Therefore, even if you assume that the state tax officer has the power, they can only exercise the power within that state only. So if they take and balance it, in my balance sheet, let's say turnover is 500 crores, but turnover is the Gujarat is only 2 crores. So he can exercise the power only up to 2 crores. By section reading of the section 6 does not mean he can exercise the power where the supply took place outside the jurisdiction of that state. That can never happen in any law. If that is happening, we will definitely challenge it, and I'm sure the court will come into aid of you.
So the next question is, can officer record statement while visiting premises under section 71?
No, 71 is the different purpose, only for verification, scrutiny, etc. And mind one thing, all these words they have written is not defined in the law at all. Verification, scrutiny, check, investigation, wherever they have picked up a dictionary and written all these words. So he cannot. Statement recording is only under section 70, and that is also there is many safeguard under section 70.
Sir, the next question is, many amendment in the GST law are carried through amendment in the rules such as Rule 86A, blocking of ITC, Rule 96B, realization of export proceed of the goods, which is not a condition of the export of goods under IGST Act. Further, under the MGST, Maharashtra state has issued a notification to delegate the power to block the ITC as per Rule 86A, even by a state tax officer. Can we say this there is an excessive delegation of power?
Yes, these points, I think these rules have already been challenged, but I already challenged on the certain rules under service tax law. I've taken up various grounds, and certain of my petitions are pending, like the Rule 3 of the service tax rules, etc. Delegation of powers, whether the DGCI has the power, notification issued to give the power to the DGCI. Delegation, the 2-3 things I want to highlight only in one line. First thing is that the jurisdictional power is given through the act, main power. Delegation cannot be assumed whether the delegation was given or not. So if there is a delegations, then you can challenge purely on the grounds of if there is an excessive delegation. In certain places, I found that there is no delegation at all. Second point is that delegate cannot further delegates. All we would have read in the Indian Contract Act also, a delegate cannot further delegate. Suppose the law says, like one question was put, the section says that power is given to the commissioner. He can only examine whether the bank's accounts to be attached or not, provisional attachment. The commissioner has no power to delegate. Therefore, if the Maharashtra, like they have delegated the further power to the officer, you can challenge that. Some delegation is not allowed. Please, while you are challenging all these things, one thing bear in mind, if you know all these things, then you challenge it. Otherwise, you go to the appropriate person. Like in one Argus case in Delhi High Court, recently decided and sent to me for my comments. They said that yes, Rule 5A is valid of the service tax rules, and Rule 5A you can carry out the audit. In the said order, the High Court has written that the arguing counsel has not made any serious attempt to argue the validity of that rule at all. He was not even aware of that rule has already been struck down by the Delhi High Court. If the Delhi High Court has already struck down the rule twice in the mega cab and travel light, can the other coordinating bench can say this rule is valid? These things was not even brought to the notice of the court. Therefore, if you are challenging the delegation jurisdiction, it required greater amount of knowledge, greater amount of research, and on the basis of that you go to the court, you will definitely succeed.
So the next question is, can state jurisdiction raise notice A7010 for scrutiny of returns under section 61 if the center jurisdiction is my current jurisdiction and as allotted to me in my registration certificate? So here she wants to ask, I guess, yes, sir. Yes.
I have already challenged this in before the Calcutta High Court. Calcutta High Court has admitted the petition on the basis of the circular I have shown you in the slide. When the allocation of the jurisdiction has been done on the GST Council circulars and by conscious decision where all the participant, all the state government was there, if my jurisdiction is assigned to the center, only center can do it, state cannot do it. On the same very point, you can also take up in the court. but these officer will not listen. For remedy, you have to go to the court only.
Sir, the next question is, constitution of the GST tribunal is held to be unconstitutional by Madras High Court. In such a case, now whether all decisions delivered by the GST tribunal, wherever formed and functional, would be held to be valid?
Yeah, that is a very important question. I do not know whether the stay was granted by the Supreme Court or not. In that case, the GST Council, once it declares is unconstitutional, then it will remain unconstitutional. I do not know, despite the law was declared unconstitutional, how these tribunals are being constituted. The law is very simple. Article 226 under the petition is filed. The court has the power to give a direction even to the official which is outside the jurisdiction of his state. GST law is a unique law. It is two in law. One is the central law, one is the state law. So far as state law is concerned, the state high court can only quash that particular state, but the central law is concerned, it will be applicable throughout the territory, as we have seen in the Mohit Mineral case and Cannon and Kusum Ignore case. Therefore, the central tribunal can never be constituted. I do not know whether it has been constituted or not, but I came to know certain state has constituted the tribunal. This is a unique kind of law. The Supreme Court should expediently decide such cases. Because the Madras High Court decision is a very fantastic decision, because that is based upon the earlier several decisions of the Supreme Court itself. Because in a tribunal, can you have a more power to the technical member than a judicial member? How it could be possible? Therefore, only on this ground you go to your High Court. The tribunal has given a decision that constitution itself is invalid. Rather, before they deliver a decision, you go to the High Court. That would be in your favor.
So now next question is, sometimes GST Council's decisions are being implemented after lapse of time, that is maybe after 1 year. Can we challenge that there should be some reasonable time and accountability, I can say, to implement GST Council decisions?
Surely, 100%. In fact, one of my very first petition, JK Mittal and Company versus Union of India, was only on this ground. The GST Council has taken a decision and your notification is contrary to that. And the High Court was so kind enough, on the spot they said, after 2-3 hearings, first rectify this notification as per the council decision. And that time the council decision were not available. After only my petition, now council decision, I have been told available on the website. Therefore, the council once has taken a decision, that has to be implemented immediately. Otherwise, what is the fun of the constitutional body? You can go to the court.
Sir, yes, this case, Rahul bhai,
In
I
case
guess
of
we can skip this. Can we skip it, or sir, are you able to, Rahul bhai?
You read
in case of the export obligation has not been fulfilled, the law provides for payment of CVD and SAD. Can we get the refund of the CVD and SAD?
I don't think so. CVD or SAD refund was allowed on the earlier law, because in GST law the refund is limited to the current law only when there is a inverted duty structure. In the GST law, you will see the refund for the previous, the credit, etc. That will not be possible to my mind under section 54.
View on nominal value of cross charge where no exempt supply from recipient location.
Nominal value of cross charge.
Where no exempt supply.
Can you explain this? View on the nominal value of the cross charge. It means the rule 128. If there is a nominal charge is there, you can mention nil. Are you asking that?
Sir, what happens in case of cross charge where no exempt supply from recipient location? So recipient location is not making any exempt supply, but since there is no supply, or say maybe if taxable supply is there, then definitely they can take ITC of this cross charge while making supply. But when there is, I can say, no supply, can a person make a nominal value for the cross charge? Or what is your view on the cross charge itself?
Yes, that is the question rightly you have put it. First thing is that I cannot presume the cross charge. Cross charge probably you are asking on the, let's say we have the 10 employees. they are going to the various location, whether that salary etc. will be distributed or not. Does it you mean to say on this is the cross charge?
Yes, sir.
To my mind, there is no such things on the cross charge etc. This is the people have raised this query, because the cross charge is if it is to be levied, first one has to understand on what basis they are saying. There are two locations under the certain GST law, they have treated as a different entity, or the different distinct entity under the two law, two branch of the two different state. Does it mean that same person is going to there? The first I want to raise this query to the old chartered accountant also. The chartered accountant, various chartered accountant, I've seen their visiting cards. Here I have the office in Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta, Madras, everywhere. Now they are talking to each other. Are they making cross charge? They are visiting to their branch office. Are they making the cross charge? But this cross charge is there. That is not a supply at all. That means talking to each other will become a taxable thing. Supply is totally different things. There should be some consideration. There should be some business purpose. There should be supply of goods or services. In merely talking, like merely a exchange of money is not taxable. Merely transaction is money is not taxable. Merely I am conducting my business administratively, it cannot be taxable at all. Administrative, otherwise the administration itself will become taxable. Like the Chartered Accountant Institute has the many branches, many regional offices. The president will visit the several places. Can it be his conduct, though he is maybe the honorary person? Suppose the certain officer also visiting, his salary to be taxable and divided. I think so more amount will be spent than the amount of tax itself for such division. And division, nobody will accept it. Nobody will accept such divisions also. Yet Harit bhai, दिखा दो उनको भी. Some family members should be happening.
Your session today. So you have young speakers also, toddlers also joining in.
So the next question is, if any term is not defined under the GST law, for example land, whether one should take the common parlance meaning or should stick to the definition under other law, which one would get the priority, therefore common parlance or the definition of other law?
There are various judgment is that if the something is not defined, one has to understand as a commonly understood meaning and scope. Therefore, if a some term is not defined, you cannot pick up the definition from the other act. In fact, that is there are direct Supreme Court decision. If some term has not been defined, you can't pick up the definition of the other act to employ under this particular act. The law is very simple. If some term has not been defined, then you have to take as a commonly understood meaning and scope the term of that. What is the meaning of that?
Yes, sir. I guess what we have compiled till that is what all the questions are being good. But there are certain questions, and we will definitely would like to have your answers to that. But that we will compile it, and we'll send it to you. Harit bhai, are you there?
Hello. हाँ Bishan bhai.
Yes. Now you can like.
No, I think, sir, thank you so much for the deliberation. Before Bishan bhai gives the vote of thanks, I just want to have a special mention of the branches who have joined us today. We are Rajkot branch, and I would like to thank all the chairmen of the branches who have made an effort of joining, and the entire team has joined. So from Rajkot, CA Vinay Sakaria, from Anand, CA Bhavesh Thakkar, Bhavnagar, CA Manish Gohil, CA Jitendra Thakkar from Bhuj, CA Karan Thakkar from Gandhidham, and CA Dipesh Booth from Jamnagar. So all the branches and all the members from Gujarat, they are listening to you, and we thank you so much for such an elaborative and such a wonderful session. I would now request Bishan bhai to give a formal word of thanks.
Sir, it is not this branch only, but I can say Naveen Khandelwal from Indore or Yes Dadda from Jaipur. so Saurabh Nagda from again Udaipur, and Richa from Chennai. So many, like we have connected all the participants all over India, and the knowledge, I can say knowledge flow from your side is just like mind-boggling, sir. Thank you so much on spending your this Sunday evening with us and deliberate each and every critical issues and aspect on GST. We at Ahmedabad branch are thankful from bottom of my heart. Even I myself, thank you very much. Thank you very much all the participants who joined